Welcome to part 2 of the home buying process video series. By now, you should be prepared to start shopping for a home and getting ready to make that offer. In the last video, we discussed how to prepare for purchasing a home, what type of funds you will be using to purchase, whether that be an all-cash purchase or getting a mortgage, getting approved for that mortgage, and how to choose the right agent for you and what to expect for closing costs. My name is Jordan Dove and I'm a realtor in Southern Nevada. I service the greater Las Vegas Valley, and that includes Henderson and North Las Vegas, everything in Clark County. I am the team lead at Dove & Associates, powered by Nationwide Realty. By this time, you have completed your home buyer's questionnaire and we have discussed what your needs and what your wants are. You've been looking at homes, and I or an agent on our team have been giving you feedback. You know, while we're looking at the homes, most buyers, they're looking at the oohs and the ahs, like the upgrades, the paint, the flooring, etc. But while we're at those showings, our agents and myself, we're looking at the foundation of the home. We're looking under the sinks, looking for leaks. We're making sure that the window seals are not broken, letting moisture come in. We're checking out the eaves of the roof, and we're checking how old that AC unit is. It gets hot in the desert. And we're there taking those notes, and we're going to provide this feedback to you to help you make an informed decision. Once you have decided that you would like to proceed to make an offer on a property, my team is going to run a comprehensive comparative market analysis and provide you with our professional broker's price opinion of that property. The value we come up with is our proprietary real-time market value estimate of that home, similar to a stock quote on any given day. This value, it could change at any time based on closing sales in the area. We will also provide you with a range of what we believe this home would sell for on that date in the open market. Our proprietary algorithm is different than all other agents. When I first got into the business, I had a great mentor who taught me how to run the numbers the right way, not the Zillow way or the Redfin way or the average agent's way. We have adopted that system and have modified it based on many different market factors. First, we take into account the condition of the property. When was the last time one of those valuation sites like Zillow has been to your home? When have they looked inside? How do they know what type of upgrade you have and what type of condition any home is in? If they've been inside to evaluate the inside of any property, let me know, because that would be news to me and be the very first time I've heard of that. So after taking into consideration the condition of the property, we then analyze sold properties within a certain time period and radius area or neighborhood of similar condition. You cannot compare a model match home that needs to be completely torn down and rebuilt to a brand new construction home that is upgraded with high-end materials. You just can't compare those. But somehow, magically, these online valuation companies, they compare those same properties with each other to come up with the value on your home. Does that sound right? So anyways, once we know the condition and the sold property data, we begin to calculate the cost of construction at the time the home was built and factor in depreciation of the structure and annual appreciation versus monthly appreciation, and analyze that compared to the cost of construction today, as well as understanding the current trends in the market, in addition to the purchasing power of buyers in a particular market. Sounds pretty interesting, right? This proprietary housing value model developed by Dove & Associates has been accurately forecasting home prices and have been confirmed by hundreds of appraisals that have come within 3% of the pricing model. And many times for our buyers, it actually comes in overvalue, giving our clients instant equity in the home. Now, this isn't always the case, but we have had tremendous success in homes appraising for higher than what our clients are purchasing the home for. This is due to our proprietary pricing model and our advanced negotiation techniques. This data is to provide you an easy-to-read report, and we go over this valuable information together. It would be a complete disservice to our clients to make offers blindly and not to understand the numbers and the current trends of the real estate market in Southern Nevada. So once you have the numbers and you've decided what type of consideration you would like to offer on the property, usually an amount that you are willing to purchase the property for, we will run an updated estimated net sheet for you to look at the closing costs, which include monthly principal payment, monthly interest payment, monthly taxes payment, monthly insurance payment, monthly HOA payment if the home resides in a common interest community, and your monthly private mortgage insurance payment if you are putting down less than 20%. The principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, referred to as PITI, is combined into your monthly mortgage payment. HOA fees are paid separately into the homeowners association. If you are purchasing in cash, you will receive an annual tax bill from the county treasurer, and will give you quarterly little coupons that you can tear out, and will let you know what your quarterly tax bill is. So this estimated net sheet will also provide you with an estimate of your prepaid and fixed closing costs, including what your down payment will be, escrow fees, lender fees, doc fees, prorations for sewage, trash, water, etc., and all the other costs that go into purchasing a home. Keep in mind that when we provide you with an estimated net sheet, it will not be exact. And it's usually a worst case scenario, and in many cases the total cost to close actually come in less than what we estimated. So that's good news. Our goal for our home buying clients is to get them in the home for as little money out of pocket as possible. We try to save where we can. So now that we've looked at houses, you've decided to proceed with making an offer after analyzing the market data, it's time to produce an offer. Make sure that you have been pre-qualified for your mortgage or you have proof of funds, because sellers, they want to ensure that you are qualified to purchase the home. Wouldn't you want to make sure the buyer is qualified? I always recommend for my sellers to request these items, and then we call and verify with the lender or the bank that they are qualified to make this purchase. So the offer contract that we will be using in the state of Nevada, it's called a Residential Purchase Agreement, or RPA, and it is the same contract that all realtors use in Southern Nevada when representing a client to purchase a home. I'm going to briefly discuss the purchase agreement with you, and I'm going to give you some strategies that you can consider when making an offer. So at the top of the Residential Purchase Agreement, or RPA, will be the date of the offer, as well as the buyer's information, as well as the property details, including the address and assessor's parcel number. It will have the offer price there and whether or not you, the buyer, intends to occupy the property or not. Owner occupied, non-owner occupied. We then break down the financial terms and conditions, such as the earnest money deposit, what type of financing, or is it going to be a cash purchase, and the total amount of funds to purchase the property. The earnest money deposit is a deposit that is requested by the seller and is typically, in most cases, between 1% and 2% of the home's listed price. This deposit is negotiable between the buyer and the seller. Earnest money is put down after an accepted offer on the house to show that you're serious about purchasing. It's also known as a good faith deposit. The earnest money deposit is not additional funds that will go to the seller, but it will be used towards the purchase price, such as your down payment, or it can go towards your closing costs. There are several ways for buyers to get their earnest money deposit back in the event something needs to be canceled in the transaction, but there are also ways for the seller to keep the deposit if the buyer fails to uphold the contingencies in the contract. That is why it's imperative to use an agent who is familiar with the contract, can explain it, and understand the deadlines and contingencies. At Dove & Associates, we have systems in place that remind you and ourselves of all deadlines and to make sure everything is handled within the time frame allotted in the contract. Okay? I'll talk about some of the contingencies in the contract shortly. So once we have the financials worked out, on page 2 we go into additional financial terms and we start the contingencies. If you are securing financing, you will have X amount of business days to complete your loan application and to furnish the pre-approval letter to the seller based upon a standard factual credit report and a review of debt to income ratio. This is why we do this at the beginning of the process and already have this completed, okay? The next section is your appraisal contingency. If you are financing the purchase of the home, which most buyers do, you should know that the lender who will be financing the loan, they're not going to loan more than the home is worth. In video 5 of this series, we're going to discuss what happens when an appraisal comes in low, at value, or if it comes in high, and when you get to that step of the transaction. The appraisal contingency is the buyer's obligation to purchase the property upon the property appraising for not less than the purchase price. The appraisal time period is set in an amount of calendar days, and that is negotiable between both the buyer and seller. I personally recommend a 28 or 30 calendar day appraisal time period to give ample time for the home to be appraised and the appraisal report returned. If the contract is not canceled in writing on or before the appraisal deadline, the buyer, you, shall be deemed to have waived the appraisal contingency. If you are purchasing in cash, you obviously do not have to have an appraisal done, but you can opt to have one if you want to and get a professional appraisal to know what the fair market value of the property is. That is completely up to you and your decision. After the appraisal contingency, you have what is called the loan contingency. This contingency, it is the obligation to purchase the property contingent upon you, the buyer, obtaining the loan referenced in section 1C and 1D of the residential purchase agreement. Just like the appraisal contingency, you will have X amount of calendar days following the date of acceptance of the RPA. I recommend clients to do a loan contingency up to the day of closing, because during this time frame, if you are unable to secure a loan, you can cancel and have your earnest money deposit returned to you. The reason why I do this is to protect you, because in the unforeseen event of something dramatic happening, such as you unfortunately losing your job the day before closing, the lender may end up denying the financing. This protects you, the buyer, but sometimes sellers do not like long loan contingencies. Again, this is a negotiation and it is up to your agent to work in your best interests, and this is why I recommend long loan contingencies. If you are purchasing cash, you will have X amount of calendar days to provide written evidence from a bona fide financial institution of sufficient cash available to complete the purchase. If the buyer does not submit the written evidence within the above time period, the seller reserves the right to terminate the contract. Now, if you need to sell your current property to purchase this property, we have what is called a contingent upon sale addendum, which will be attached herein to the offer and needs to be disclosed to the seller. This is pretty common practice when you own a home and you're looking to upgrade your home by, getting something bigger or downsizing, and you need to sell your current residence or another property to be able to do so. Moving on into the contract, we move into fixtures and personal property. Are the appliances included? Sometimes the fridge, it's not included, but it can be negotiated in. Sometimes there's no refrigerator at all. Are there window coverings, drapes, blinds? Is there a water softener system? Is it leased or owned? Who does that stay with? Solar panels? Are they owned free and clear, or does the remaining balance, does that need to be assumed by the new buyer? This is the part of the contract where we resolve that. Moving on to the next section, we discuss the opening of escrow with the title or escrow company. Again, this is a negotiation between the buyer and the seller. I have a great relationship with Tiani Ogden at Driggs Title, and she will offer my clients a discount on escrow fees. If you have a title rep that you would like to use, you can certainly recommend to do that as well, but most people are unfamiliar with how title works. In video 3, when we discuss what to expect after your offer is accepted, I'm going to do an interview with Tiani so she can break down the role of title and escrow. She'll be able to discuss what a preliminary title report is, what title insurance is, and some other information that will be of value to you. Now, your earnest money deposit and all funds of the transaction will be handled through escrow minus your inspection and appraisal. Escrow is an impartial third party who will transfer funds from buyer to seller and acts as an intermediary in closing and recording of the property. Now, you will have to decide on when you would like your closing date to be, and this is in the contract. Sometimes you may need a little longer to close, might need a longer closing time, or the seller may need more time to move out. You may want to close as quickly as possible. It really just depends on your situation and your scenario and what works best for you, but I'm here to help. Most properties record at the end of the month, and the reason for this is because it will save you prepaid interest on your mortgage. If you close on the 15th of the month, you're going to pay 15 days of prepaid interest, and that's going to be in your closing cost. If you close the last day of the month, you're only going to pay for 1 day. August 31st, for example, if that was your closing date, your mortgage payment would then become due October 1st. In some cases, the seller may need time after closing to move out. This is negotiated prior to closing, and if this is agreed upon, this is called a leaseback. The seller is leasing the property from the buyer, who is now the owner, creating tenancy. If purchasing with a mortgage, the maximum amount of time for a leaseback is 59 days. And the reason for that is finance purchases must take possession of the property within 60 days of closing. If a leaseback is needed, you guessed it, that's right, there is a contract for that. Typically, the buyer of the property will hold a security deposit from the seller in the amount agreed upon between the buyer and seller, as well as prorated daily rent, which will be dispersed to you, the buyer, and can be used for closing costs. The security deposit is going to be held in escrow, and it will be released back to the seller upon a successful final walkthrough after the seller vacates the property. If there happens to be damages, and if there happens to be damages that happened after the final walkthrough prior to closing, the buyer reserves the right to hold the amount of funds needed to make the repair or repairs. Free and clear title must be issued to the buyer when making the purchase. The contract states that the agreement is contingent upon the seller's ability to deliver good and marketable title, as evidenced by a policy of title insurance naming the buyer as the insured in the amount equal to the purchase price. If you do not know what title insurance is, it is a contract in which the title insurance company, in exchange for a one-time premium at the close of escrow, protects against future losses resulting from defects in the title to real property that exists at the time of purchase but are unknown or undisclosed. Now, there are two types, which are owner's title insurance, which provides protection to the homeowner if someone sues and says, they have a claim against the home from before the homeowner purchased it. The other type is lender's title insurance, which protects your lender against problems with the title of your property, such as someone with legal claims against the home. The next section of the contract is the buyer's due diligence period. This is typically 10 days, but can be more or less depending on the circumstances. This is the time period in which you should take action that you deem the property satisfactory to purchase. This includes your home inspection. This includes termite pest inspections if needed, roofing inspections when needed, and sometimes environmental substances or hazards, making sure the flood zones are right, etc. I would advise against purchasing a home that was not a meth lab. Do not buy one of those, but you can if you want. But we will talk about the home inspection process in the next video of what to expect after your offer is accepted. During the due diligence period, if there is something you do not like with the property, maybe it has too many repairs that are needed, maybe it has some structural issues, whatever, you can get out of the contract and get your earnest money deposit returned so long as it's put in writing. The rest of the contract goes over the fees and prorations, such as who pays for escrow fees, which is typically split 50-50 between buyer and seller, who pays for the lender's title policy and appraisal, that's usually the buyer, who pays for the owner titles policy and real property transfer tax. Those two in most cases are typically paid for by the seller, in addition to related CIC expenses if the home resides in an HOA, and again, the seller will typically pay those fees. Now, the HOA resale package is required by Nevada law for the seller to pay for you. You can also ask the lender and closing fees from the seller, which is also known as a seller concession, and who pays for the home protection plan. Does the buyer or seller pay for the home warranty? Will the buyer waive the home warranty? How much will it cost? we are going to provide you with options for the home warranty so you can decide what is best for you. In the crazy seller's market we've had over the past 2 years, and it has shifted now, but many buyers opted to waive the home warranty or pay it themselves, as well as not to ask for seller concessions because this would make the offer stronger. Not to mention paying above appraised market value. Now, with the market shifting more towards a normal market, it's definitely a good idea to ask for seller concessions and for the seller to pay for the home warranty. Why not? There are several other boilerplate sections in the contract that we will go over in person, but that is about the majority of the contract and a lot of important details. Keep in mind that this contract is legally binding under Nevada law and time is of the essence. So now I'm going to talk about some strategies for the making of the offer. We've ran a comprehensive market analysis for you, and you've decided what you want to offer in terms of purchase price for the property. In a more normal market, which we are shifting back to, where homes are sitting on the market a little bit longer and we have a healthy supply of inventory, I highly, highly recommend that you ask for seller concessions. See what you can get. If the home has been sitting for a while, the seller may be motivated to sell. Perhaps you can offer a lower purchase price to the list price and see if the seller will accept that. Or maybe they counter back at a lower price than what they were originally asking. That's a win-win for you. Now, you will still run the risk of somebody else coming in and making a stronger offer than you during that time period, but that risk is much less likely than it was during the craziest seller's market we have ever seen. That is a risk for you to weigh out the pros and cons on. I like to say, let's get the conversation started and let's see how the seller responds. We will discuss other strategies during the due diligence period on video 4 of this series when we discuss the due diligence period and home inspections. So now you know a ton about making an offer on the home and how we provide value to our clients to make the right decision for them. Okay? Remember, my team, we are in charge of the process, but you're in charge of the decisions. And we are going to do everything we can to get you the very best of the information so you can make the very best of the decisions. My name is Jordan Dove, and I'm a realtor in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm the team lead at Dove & Associates, powered by Nationwide Realty, where we have some great agents and a full-time support staff. If you're in the market to buy a home in Las Vegas, either as your primary residence or you're looking to purchase an investment, our team, we would love to help you. My contact information is in the description of this video, okay? So reach out to me, send me an email, give me a call. On the next video, the Home Buying Process series, we will discuss what to expect after your offer is accepted, including the earnest money deposit, escrow and title insurance, closing costs, preparing to move, and so much more. Video number 4 of this series will be the due diligence and home inspections process, which will be explained in more details then. Until next time, I hope you're doing well, but please take care and be well.